Dr. Alan Coleman stands before the paralyzed Katarian girl, his mind already racing through the possibilities of adapting his groundbreaking prosthetic interface technology to save her mobility. The emergency medical transport had interrupted his presentation at the Galactic Medical Conference, bringing with it 8-year-old Lena, daughter of Ambassador Kavek, her neural pathways devastated by a shuttle accident. The stark white walls of Orbital Station Alpha's medical bay contrast with the varied hues of the assembled alien physicians. Multiple displays show Lena's neural scans, the complex Katarian pathways displaying patterns of damage that would make most doctors step back in defeat. The Katarian medical team, led by Chief Physician Tilar, has already declared the case hopeless. The neural architecture is too severely compromised, Tilar states, her elongated fingers gesturing at the scans. In all our medical history, no Katarian has recovered from such extensive neural severing. Coleman studies the displays intently, noting how the Katarian neural patterns, while more intricate than human ones, share fundamental similarities with the transmission principles he'd been presenting minutes ago. His experimental prosthetic interfaces, designed for human patients, could be modified to bridge the gap in Lena's neural network. Ambassador Kavek, Coleman addresses the girl's father, who stands rigid with worry beside the medical bed. I believe I can adapt our prosthetic interface technology to restore Lena's mobility. The ambassador's facial ridges darken, a sign of distress in Katarians. The Medical Council forbids the use of other species' medical technologies on our people. The risk, with respect, Ambassador, Coleman interrupts, the only risk now is doing nothing. Your daughter will never walk again without intervention. The tension in the medical bay grows palpable as other conference attendees gather at the periphery. Word has already spread that the Katarians are considering withdrawal from the Galactic Medical Exchange Program, viewing human medical approaches as dangerously experimental. This case could either bridge the divide between species or widen it irreparably. Coleman moves to Lena's bedside, scanning through Katarian medical databases on his tablet. The similarities between their neural transmission systems become more apparent with each page he reviews. Where others see incompatibility, he sees opportunity, a chance to prove that human medical innovation can transcend species boundaries. Look here, he projects a holographic overlay comparing human and Katarian neural pathways. The basic transmission principles are compatible. We can modify the interface to accommodate Katarian complexity. I can help her walk again. The ambassador's gaze shifts between his daughter's still form and the determined human doctor. The future of both Lena's mobility and interspecies medical cooperation hangs in the balance of his next words. Ambassador Kavek's eyes fixed on the holographic display, his elongated fingers tensing against the medical bed's rail. You have 6 hours to prove this concept, Dr. Coleman. After that, I must abide by the Council's protocols. Coleman nodded, already heading for the exit. Dr. Walker, he called into his comm unit while striding through the station's curved corridors, meet me in Lab 7. Bring everything you have on xenoneural architecture. The laboratory hummed with activity as Coleman and Dr. Marcus Walker pored over neural scans. Walker, whose weathered face reflected decades of xenobiological research, manipulated a three-dimensional model of Katarian nerve cells. There, Walker pointed to a crystalline formation within the cell structure. That's why previous interfaces failed. Katarian neurons use crystalline matrices for signal transmission, not chemical synapses like humans. Coleman adjusted his scanning equipment, revealing previously hidden neural patterns. The crystalline structure explains the complexity, but if we can match the frequency, you'll need quantum-level sensing for that, a voice came from the doorway. Dr. Sarah Wells stood there, holding a device smaller than her palm. I've been developing these for cross-species neural mapping. They might be exactly what you need. The three specialists worked through the night, surrounded by holographic displays and scattered data tablets. Wells's quantum sensors detected subtle variations in the crystalline neural patterns, while Walker's expertise helped them understand the alien physiology they were dealing with. At hour 5, Tilar entered the lab, her presence causing the human scientists to pause their work. Without speaking, she placed a data crystal on the central table. Previous attempts at neural reconstruction. The council would not approve of me sharing this, but Lena's life matters more than protocol. The data revealed crucial patterns in failed treatments, allowing Coleman to refine the interface design. Wells's sensors picked up the precise frequencies needed for signal transmission, while Walker identified the optimal connection points for the prosthetic bridge. A chime indicated the arrival of High Physician Mokhtar, his formal robes marking him as a council representative. He moved through the lab, recording every detail with his optical implants. This unauthorized experimentation violates 17 separate protocols, he announced, examining a tissue sample under analysis. With respect, Coleman continued working as he spoke, we've achieved successful signal transmission in isolated tissue samples. The quantum neural bridge works. Theoretical success does not justify risking a child's life, Mokhtar countered, but his attention caught on the test results displaying on nearby screens. New data from Lena's medical pod flashed red across the displays. Neural cascade accelerating, the computer announced. Estimated system failure in 18 standard days. Tilar stepped forward, her voice steady. High Physician, I have monitored every aspect of their research. Their approach is sound, and time grows short. Coleman prepared the test results and simulation data for presentation to the medical board. The prototype neural bridge, a marvel of bioengineering barely larger than his thumbnail, sat ready for inspection. In the adjacent room, he could hear the growing crowd of human and K-Terrian medical officials gathering for the emergency session. Wells ran final diagnostics on the quantum sensors, while Walker compiled their research into coherent datasets. The interface hummed softly, its crystalline components aligned precisely with K-Terrian neural frequencies. Through the observation window, Coleman watched Lena's still form, her neural patterns growing more unstable with each passing hour. The presentation that could save her life and change the future of interspecies medicine waited on his tablet, ready to challenge decades of medical isolation. Coleman strode into Orbital Station Alpha's main conference chamber, his tablet projecting a holographic display that filled the center of the room. 10 faces, 5 human, 5 K-Terrian watched from their elevated seats as he initiated the presentation. The neural interface rotated in the projection, its crystalline components gleaming. The quantum neural bridge operates on fundamentally compatible principles, Coleman explained, manipulating the hologram to highlight specific components. Our sensors detect and replicate the exact frequency patterns of K-Terrian neural transmission. Dr. Sarah Wells stepped forward, activating additional displays showing successful tissue trials. The quantum sensors achieve 98% accuracy in reading crystalline neural patterns. Accuracy means nothing without context. High Physician Mokhtar interrupted, his optical implants gleaming as he transmitted data to the main display. Observe these results from similar attempts on our homeworld. 23 failed procedures, 16 patients with permanent damage. The chamber fell silent as the board members studied the new data. Coleman's heart rate quickened, but before he could respond, Dr. Walker moved to the center of the room. These previous attempts, Walker highlighted specific data points, failed to account for crystalline resonance frequencies. Our quantum sensors calibrate to individual neural patterns, a crucial difference that prevents cascade failures. Ambassador Kavek rose from his observer's seat, his personal medical monitor projecting Lena's deteriorating vital signs. My daughter's neural cascade accelerates by the hour. He addressed the board, breaking decades of protocol. Traditional treatments have failed. I formally request approval for Dr. Coleman's procedure. The board chamber emptied as the members entered deliberation. Coleman's team rushed back to the medical lab, where the neural interface awaited final refinements. "Look at this," Wells called out, adjusting the quantum sensor array. She carefully inserted a microscopic fragment of K-Terrian neural crystal into the calibration matrix. The sensor's output jumped, transmission clarity improving dramatically. 4 to 7% increase in efficiency, Walker confirmed, studying the readouts. This could be the difference between success and failure. Tilar entered the lab, glancing over her shoulder before approaching Coleman. "These are Lena's pre-accident neural scans." She placed a data crystal in his hand. "Use them well." Through the night, they programmed the baseline patterns into the modified sensors. Holographic representations of Lena's neural architecture filled the lab, guiding their calibrations with precise digital models. The board reconvened at dawn. "You may proceed with 3 tissue trials," the senior human representative announced. "Hourly reports required. All trials must succeed before attempting the procedure." Coleman's team began immediately. The first trial ended in failure, crystalline structures overloading in a cascade of neural feedback. The second maintained transmission for 6 hours before degrading. With Lena's vital signs now critical, they prepared the final trial. Coleman studied the failed attempts' data, noticing a pattern in the neural firing sequences. "The activation order," he adjusted the interface controls. "It needs to match K-Terrian neural rhythm exactly." He input the new sequence, watching as the test tissue responded. The modified quantum sensors hummed to life, establishing a stable connection with the K-Terrian neural tissue. On the monitors, transmission patterns held steady as minutes ticked into hours. Ambassador Kavek watched through the observation window as Coleman's team monitored the final trial. Behind him, both human and K-Terrian medical officials gathered, their attention fixed on the readouts that would determine whether this unprecedented collaboration would proceed to save his daughter's life. The successful neural tissue trial spurred the medical team into immediate action. Coleman activated the station's surgical preparation protocols, while Wells and Walker transferred their equipment to Orbital Station Alpha's main medical bay. "Hybrid monitoring station online," Wells announced, connecting the last quantum sensor to the K-Terrian diagnostic array. The merged display showed neural patterns in previously impossible detail, human precision merged with K-Terrian crystal sensing technology. A priority transport beam illuminated the preparation area. Dr. James Morrison materialized, his surgical kit already in hand. "Latest Luna-based neural mapping protocols," he said, striding to the central console. "Where do you need me?" Coleman pulled up the surgical timeline. 7 phases, 8 hours maximum. We'll need your expertise for the crystal alignment in Phase 3. The medical bay transformed as human and K-Terrian equipment merged into a unified surgical environment. Cooling units hummed to life, their temperature readouts displaying in both species measurement systems. Tilar adjusted the crystal resonance scanners, while Walker calibrated the neural bridges activation sequences. "Lena's neural degradation has reached 6 to 7%, Tilar reported, her fingers moving across the K-Terrian medical displays. "The crystal structures in her lower spine are beginning to fragment." Ambassador Kavek entered the observation room above. His comm unit chimed with an incoming transmission. The emergency response unit's estimated arrival time had decreased again. He terminated the connection without responding. "Transfer of medical authority confirmed," the station's computer announced. "Human medical protocols now primary." Coleman studied the neural mapping displayed across the surgical suite screens. "Her age works in our favor. The crystal matrices show higher adaptability than adult samples. He highlighted specific neural junctions. We'll begin here at the L4 vertebra, where the degradation pattern first appeared. Dr. Morrison examined the hybrid monitoring system's readouts. The crystal cooling rate needs precise calibration. Too slow, we lose neural cohesion. Too fast, we risk structural damage. He adjusted the temperature controls, bringing them into alignment with K-Terrian physiological parameters. Wells's quantum sensors detected a surge in neural activity, pattern destabilization accelerating in sectors 12 through 15. Prep for immediate procedure, Coleman ordered. The medical team moved with practiced efficiency, each member taking their assigned positions. Sterilization fields activated, creating a pristine surgical environment that met both human and K-Terrian standards. TLAR initiated the presurgical neural mapping sequence, beginning baseline readings for all crystal matrices. The displays filled with cascading data as the hybrid system analyzed every neural pathway in Lena's affected regions. Morrison studied the surgical approach renders. The cooling system needs to activate the moment we begin crystal reconstruction. No margin for error on the timing. Timing parameters locked, Walker confirmed from the monitoring station. Quantum sensors calibrated to detect crystal phase transitions at the microscopic level. Ambassador Kavek watched from above as the team made their final preparations. His personal display showed the emergency response unit's ship accelerating toward the station. 7 hours, 4 to 3 minutes remaining. Coleman reviewed the surgical sequence one final time. Phase 1 would establish the neural bridge's foundation. Phase 2 required precise crystal alignment across 17 separate junctions. Phase 3 demanded perfect synchronization between the cooling system and the quantum neural interface. All monitoring systems integrated, Wells reported. Human and K-Terrian diagnostic feeds synchronized to within 1 microsecond. The surgical suite systems performed their final checks. Equipment hummed at precisely calculated frequencies designed to maintain crystal stability. The neural bridge, now cooled to its optimal temperature, waited in its sterile field. TLAR moved to the surgical controls. Crystal degradation has reached the secondary neural sheath. We must begin now. Coleman nodded to his assembled team. The hybrid displays showed Lena's neural patterns alongside the calibration metrics for the prosthetic interface. 7 hours, 38 minutes remained before the emergency response unit's arrival. Initiating surgical phase 1, Coleman announced. The procedure that would either bridge the gap between human and K-Terrian medicine or confirm the impossibility of such cooperation was about to begin. Begin neural sensor placement, Coleman said, activating the surgical suite's primary systems. The hybrid displays cast a pale blue glow across the team's faces as they positioned the first quantum array. Morrison's hands moved with precision as he guided the sensor into position along Lena's cervical vertebrae. His eyes narrowed at the neural activity readings. Crystal degradation rate exceeding projections. Pattern collapse accelerating in sectors 18 through 22. Wells's fingers flew across the monitoring controls, increasing quantum sensitivity to compensate. Neural tracking at maximum resolution. The displays shifted, revealing microscopic details of the degrading pathways. Processing load at 8 to 7%. We need to move faster, Coleman adjusted the surgical timeline displays. TLAR, begin crystal mapping for phase 2. Morrison, accelerate sensor placement in the thoracic region. The quantum arrays activated in sequence, each one establishing a direct connection to Lena's neural architecture. Wells monitored the data streams, making micro-adjustments to maintain optimal sensitivity levels. Upper array network stable, Walker reported, moving to spinal junction placement. TLAR stepped forward, her optical implants scanning the crystal matrices. Variants detected in resonance patterns. Sector 12 showing phase misalignment. Walker analyzed the incoming data, adjusting interface frequencies. His fingers danced across the calibration controls. Resonance stabilizing. We avoided a cascade failure by 0.3 microseconds. The surgical suite's cooling system fluctuated, sending warning signals across the environmental displays. Chief Engineer Patterson's voice cut through the medical bay's comm system. Power surge detected in primary systems. Medical bay drawing 14% above maximum rated capacity. We can't reduce power to the neural sensors, Coleman said, watching the crystal degradation rates climbing. Options. Rerouting power from secondary life support and artificial gravity in unused sections, Patterson responded. Diverting emergency backup systems to maintain cooling stability. Ambassador Kavek's comm unit chimed. The message from Commander Vitor filled his personal display. Cease procedure immediately. 17 Protocol VIOLATIONS DETCTED. Emergency Response Unit en route. Kavek's response was brief. I, Ambassador Kavek, formally authorize continuation of emergency medical procedure SA-271. I accept full responsibility for all consequences. He terminated the connection, knowing his diplomatic career had ended with those words. In the surgical suite, the first neural bridge connection sparked to life. Quantum sensors transmitted signals across the damaged pathway, creating a stable link between prosthetic and organic tissue. Bridge integration successful in sectors 1 through 4, Wells announced. Power consumption exceeding projected levels by 32%. Patterson's voice crackled over the comm again, shutting down all non-essential station functions. Redirecting power to medical systems. Will maintain minimal life support and artificial gravity in critical areas only. The station's lights dimmed as power shifted to the medical bay. Coleman studied the neural activity patterns spreading across the quantum bridge. Each successful connection brought them closer to stabilizing Lena's neural network, but the power demands threatened to overwhelm the station's capacity. Entering final connection sequence, Morrison said, positioning the last array. Crystal degradation now at 73%. We have less than 5 hours before total system collapse. The emergency response unit's ship appeared on the station's long-range sensors, its engines pushing beyond standard safety limits. In the observation room, Kavek watched his daughter's vital signs, knowing that both her life and decades of medical tradition hung in the balance of the next few hours. Walker's voice cut through the tension. Power fluctuation in cooling system 3. Compensating with auxiliary units. The temperature readout stabilized, but the strain on the station's power grid increased. Beginning full neural pathway restoration, Coleman announced, initiating the procedure's most critical phase. The quantum sensors hummed at their maximum capacity, channeling power from every available system as they fought to establish stable connections before Lena's remaining neural tissue deteriorated beyond recovery. Beyond recovery. Coleman focused on the neural activity displays when alerts flashed across the security monitors. Multiple access attempts detected in medical control systems, Security Chief Harper announced through the comm. Source, K-Tarian diplomatic vessel, bearing 170 Mark IV. They're trying to shut us down remotely, Walker said, his hands moving across the defensive protocols. Quantum sensor arrays are being targeted. Harper's voice remained steady. Implementing emergency isolation procedures. Medical bay systems going dark to external networks. Now, the security displays shifted to local-only mode as Harper's team erected digital barriers around the surgical suite. Crystal fragmentation detected in sectors 25 through 28, Wells reported, highlighting new degradation patterns. Secondary neural pathways showing signs of deterioration. Coleman studied the spread pattern. Morrison, we need those stabilization units. Begin micro-deploy sequence. Morrison activated the modified spinal reconstruction system. Microscopic stabilizers entered Lena's neural tissue through precision-guided conduits. Units adapting to K-Terrian crystal matrices. Deployment at 12%. Chief Engineer Patterson to medical. Power grid reaching critical threshold. Initiating emergency consultation. A new voice cut in. Technical specialist tours here. I've analyzed the power requirements. We can tap the auxiliary fusion reactor, but it's never been attempted during active surgery. Proceed, Coleman authorized, watching the power readings fluctuate dangerously close to maximum capacity. Walker's voice rose with sudden interest. Dr. Coleman, these fragmentation patterns, they're creating microchannels in the neural tissue. He enhanced the quantum sensor display. Look at the signal propagation through these natural pathways. Wells leaned in, studying the unexpected development. He's right. These channels could enhance neural transmission. His fingers flew across the calibration controls, reconfiguring quantum interface to utilize natural pathways. Power demand dropping, 23% reduction in power draw. The surgical suite's lighting stabilized as TORs began the power transfer sequence. Auxiliary fusion reactor coming online, routing power through secondary conduits. A priority message flashed across Coleman's display. Commander Reynolds's authorization codes preceded a formal designation. Medical Emergency Protocol 47 now in effect. The designation would protect them from the incoming emergency response unit's legal challenges. Ambassador Kavek's voice emanated from the observation room's comm system. I am requesting immediate political asylum on Earth for myself and my daughter. A pause. The request has been logged. They cannot legally intervene now. First neural pathway showing regeneration, Morrison announced. The displays confirmed successful signal transmission through the quantum-organic interface. Bridge connection stable at 97%. Additional K-Terrian vessels detected, Harper reported. 5 ships on approach vector. Emergency response unit has called for backup. Wells adjusted the neural bridge parameters. 4 hours to complete the remaining connections. We'll need to establish each bridge in precise sequence. TORs to medical. Auxiliary power holding steady. You've got what you need, just don't exceed current levels. Coleman examined the regeneration patterns across the neural network. The hybrid technology was working, creating stable pathways where K-Terrian medicine alone had failed. He directed the team to begin the next phase of bridge construction, knowing that each successful connection brought them closer to saving Lena and closer to the arrival of multiple K-Terrian enforcement vessels. Beginning bridge sequence Alpha 7. Morrison announced, guiding the next set of quantum stabilizers into position. The displays showed Lena's neural network gradually accepting the hybrid interfaces, while outside the medical bay, a diplomatic crisis continued to unfold. The medical bay's doors slid open, revealing 3 figures in environmental suits. Dr. Coleman glanced up from the neural displays as Station Commander Reynolds's voice came through the comm system. Additional specialists arriving now, Doctor. I took the liberty of requesting their presence 2 hours ago. Dr. James Walker, Earth's leading expert in medical power systems, moved directly to the engineering station. Lieutenant Thomas Reed and Dr. Robert Nash followed, each heading to their designated areas after rapid decontamination. Power fluctuation in Grid 7, Patterson announced as Walker integrated into his team, compensating with auxiliary systems. Walker's fingers flew across the power distribution controls. These surges follow a pattern. Patterson, help me install these modified regulators. We can reshape the power curve to match the quantum sensor's demand cycles. Patterson nodded, and together they began implementing Walker's custom regulators. The power displays stabilized, showing a 17% increase in available reserves. Neural bridge Alpha 7 completed, Morrison reported. Moving to Sector 23. Lieutenant Reed joined Security Chief Harper at the defensive controls. These shield configurations were designed for solar storms, but we can modify them to create a localized barrier around the medical bay. His hands moved across the tactical displays, encrypting shield frequencies now. The shields hummed to life just as Harper's security systems flashed red. Multiple penetration attempts detected. Catarian vessels targeting main power distribution nodes. Shields holding, Reed confirmed. They can't establish a remote connection through this interference pattern. At the primary sensor station, Dr. Nash leaned in close to Wells's displays. These crystal formations, they're not degrading in the expected pattern. He enhanced the quantum imaging. Look at this growth structure around the sensor in Sector 12. Wells adjusted the scanning resolution. The crystalline matrix is actually integrating with our quantum sensors. It's creating natural transmission pathways. Modify interface protocols, Nash directed. Don't fight the integration, use it. Reduce power to sensors 3 through 7 and let the crystal structures guide the signal path. Coleman watched as the neural activity patterns shifted, becoming more organic and stable. The power demands dropped as the hybrid system adapted to work with Lena's natural tissue responses. Ambassador Kavek's voice carried an edge of hope as he spoke through the observation room comm. The science ministry is divided. Several department heads have voiced support for this procedure. Incoming transmission from the Emergency Response Unit, Harper reported. 3 medical officers have formally registered disagreement with Commander Vitor's orders to terminate the procedure. Morrison's voice cut through the updates. Dr. Coleman getting first response from lower neural pathways. Test signals are transmitting through completed bridges. The displays confirmed neural activity spreading through the restored connections. Lena's lower body showed the first signs of restored nervous system function. We need 3 more hours, Coleman calculated, studying the procedure timeline. Absolute stability in power and cooling systems is essential. Tor's voice came through the engineering comm. I can give you that stability, but there's a cost. We'll need to shut down the long-range communication arrays and redirect that power to medical. Commander Reynolds didn't hesitate. Do it. We'll maintain emergency channels only. The station's communication systems powered down in sequence as Tor's implemented the power transfer. The medical bay system steadied, drawing on the newly available energy reserves. Final phase of neural restoration beginning, Coleman announced. Morrison, prepare bridge sequence Beta on through Beta 7. Lieutenant Reed's tactical display flashed. Multiple Catarian vessels approaching station perimeter, detecting active scanning of our outer security systems. The quantum sensors hummed at their optimized frequencies as Coleman's team worked to complete the neural restoration. Outside, the Catarian enforcement fleet moved closer, probing for weaknesses in the station's defenses. Inside the medical bay, shielded from external interference, the race to restore Lena's neural function continued under the protection of modified defensive screens and stabilized power systems. Walker monitored the power distribution curves. Holding at optimal levels. You've got all the power you need, Dr. Coleman. Nash adjusted the quantum sensor protocols as new crystal formations appeared. Natural integration proceeding in sectors 30 through 35. These pathways are actually enhancing signal strength. The station's hull vibrated slightly as the first Catarian vessel moved into close orbit. Through the observation window, Kavek watched his daughter's neural activity patterns stabilize, while the fleet sent by his own government prepared to intervene. The first neural activity readings from Lena's lower extremities flickered across Coleman's display when the medical monitors suddenly spiked. Neural activity increasing beyond sedation threshold, Morrison announced, highlighting the unexpected readings. She's beginning to regain consciousness. Coleman leaned forward, studying the quantum interface patterns. Her system is adapting to the neural bridges faster than projected. Wells, adjust sedation protocols. Standard sedatives aren't maintaining therapeutic levels, Wells responded, fingers moving across the biochemical controls. Her K-Terrian physiology is actively processing the compounds. Through the observation window, Ambassador Kavek pressed closer to the glass as his daughter's hand twitched. Is this normal? Not normal, but promising, Nash answered, analyzing the crystal formation patterns. Look at these transmission signatures. The neural crystals aren't just accepting our interface, they're replicating its patterns. Wells enhanced the quantum imaging. Confirmed. Crystal structures in sectors 40 through 45 show spontaneous signal propagation. Her nervous system is learning to maintain these pathways independently. The station's comm system crackled. Security Chief Harper to medical. K-Terrian vessel has achieved stable orbit. Admiral J-Rawl requesting immediate communication. Commander Reynolds's voice carried authority. Put it through to medical observation. Admiral J-Rawl's face appeared on the observation room's display. This is your only warning. Terminate this illegal procedure within 1 hour, or we will be forced to take direct action. Lieutenant Reed's hands moved across the tactical systems, implementing shield harmonics now. The defensive screens hummed at a new frequency. These modulations will destabilize their transporter signatures if they attempt forced entry. Power consumption dropping in sectors 12 through 18, Walker reported, studying the engineering displays. The natural neural pathways are taking over primary signal transmission. Tor's voice came through the engineering comm, confirming power reduction, redirecting excess capacity to defensive systems, grid stability at 82%. The medical bay's doors sealed as Chief Engineer Patterson initiated lockdown procedures. Through the corridor windows, security teams took positions at strategic points, establishing a defensive perimeter under Commander Reynolds's direction. Ambassador, Harper called. Priority transmission from the Science Ministry. Kavek activated his personal comm unit. The message scrolled across his display, and his expression shifted. The Medical Council's authority is being challenged. Progressive factions are pushing for emergency reform of our medical protocols. Coleman focused on the neural displays as Lena's readings continued to strengthen. 60% integration achieved across restored pathways. Morrison, begin final calibration sequence. The station vibrated as energy patterns washed across the hull. K-Terrian vessel broadcasting interference signals, Harper reported. They're targeting power distribution nodes, compensating with inverse frequency modulation, Tors responded. Medical systems remain stable. Nash highlighted new crystal formations spreading through Lena's neural tissue. These adaptation rates are unprecedented. The quantum interface is serving as a template for natural regeneration. 2 hours minimum to complete proper calibration, Coleman calculated, studying the integration patterns. The displays showed Lena's neural network steadily expanding through the quantum organic bridges, each new connection strengthening the overall system. The station shuddered as Admiral J-Rawl's vessel increased its interference output. Reed adjusted the shield harmonics, compensating for each new frequency pattern the K-Terrians deployed. Outside the medical bay's reinforced windows, security teams established additional defensive positions, while Patterson's engineering crews sealed the surrounding access points with reinforced bulkheads. Entering critical phase of neural calibration, Morrison announced. Bridge stability at 93% and rising. The quantum sensors continued their precise work as Lena's neural tissue integrated with the artificial pathways, while above the station, Admiral J-Rawl's vessel maintained its orbital position, its weapons systems charged and ready. The procedure had become a race against both time and political pressure, with each passing minute bringing them closer to either a medical breakthrough or potential conflict. The station's power grid fluctuated as Admiral J-Rawls' interference patterns penetrated the outer defensive layers. Warning indicators flashed across engineering's primary display. Secondary power systems destabilizing, TORs announced through the comm. Interference is disrupting standard distribution pathways. Dr. Walker's fingers flew across his console. We can reroute through maintenance conduits. It's not elegant, but it'll work. He transmitted a series of calculations to TORs. These modifications will require manual regulation. Dispatching maintenance teams now, TORs confirmed. Andre, take Alpha Team to Junction 14, Beta Team to Section 23. The maintenance crews moved into position around the medical bay's perimeter. Each technician stationed themselves at critical power junctions, hands steady on manual regulators as they implemented the new power flow patterns. Doctor. Nash's voice cut through the focused silence. Dr. Coleman, these crystal formations, they're evolving into something unprecedented. He enhanced the quantum imaging, revealing intricate new growth patterns. The neural structures are incorporating elements of both K-Terrian and human interface designs. Coleman studied the display. The crystal matrices showed complex geometric patterns never before documented in K-Terrian physiology. Document everything. This could revolutionize neural interface technology. Ambassador Kavek's comm unit chimed with an encrypted message. His face paled as he read. High Commander Artal leads a second response unit from the homeworld. They carry specialized override equipment. He looked up. 6 hours until arrival. Commander Reynolds activated the station-wide command channel. Initiate Defensive Protocol Alpha. Deploy military-grade shield generators. The station hummed as powerful shield emitters activated, designed to withstand the most severe solar storms. Lieutenant Reed's tactical display showed the reinforced defensive grid forming around the station's hull. Movement in lower extremities detected, Morrison announced. Neural integration at 78% across restored pathways. Lena's left foot twitched, then her right. The quantum sensors showed strong signal propagation through the newly formed neural bridges. Time estimate for completion? Reynolds asked. 90 minutes minimum, Coleman responded, adjusting interface calibration. Precision is essential during final integration. 2 more K-Terrian vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel, taking up attack positions alongside Admiral J-Rawls' ship. Reed activated a series of modified maintenance drones, their new shield generators creating a protective web around the station's power distribution nodes. Critical power conduits showing microfractures, Patterson reported. Dr. Walker implementing rolling power transfer now. Walker nodded, synchronizing his controls with Patterson's. Shifting load to grid 4, Mark 3, 2, 1. Transfer complete. Next rotation in 60 seconds. The engineering team maintained their precise timing, moving power loads between conduits to prevent system failure. Each transfer required split-second coordination to maintain stable power flow to the medical systems. Upper neural pathways showing unexpected regeneration, Morrison reported. Successfully restored sections are stimulating natural healing in adjacent tissue. Temperature increasing in regeneration zones, Wells added, adjusting cooling protocols to compensate. The quantum sensors tracked the cascade of neural recovery spreading through Lena's nervous system. Each newly restored pathway seemed to accelerate the healing process in surrounding tissue. Security Chief Harper's tactical alert cut through the medical bay's focused atmosphere. Energy buildup detected in K-Terrian vessels. Pattern suggests coordinated breach attempt in progress. Defensive drones holding position, Reed confirmed. Shield grid at maximum output. Coleman's hands moved steadily across the neural interface controls as the final phase of restoration proceeded. Outside the medical bay's reinforced windows, maintenance crews continued their manual power regulation, while security teams maintained their defensive positions. The station's enhanced shields cast a subtle blue glow through the observation ports as they repelled the increasing K-Tarian interference patterns. 7 to 5 minutes to completion, Coleman announced, watching the neural integration readings climb steadily higher. The quantum sensors hummed as they guided the final neural bridges into place, racing against the approaching threat of High Commander Artal's intervention force. A surge of energy from Admiral J-Rawls' vessels struck the station's defensive grid. Warning indicators flashed across Lieutenant Reed's tactical display as the coordinated interference patterns began degrading shield integrity. Shield grid destabilizing, Reed announced. Standard countermeasures ineffective against new interference pattern. Reed's fingers moved across his console, activating the station's experimental magnetic deflection system. The equipment, originally installed to protect delicate medical instruments from solar radiation, hummed to life with Dr. Walker's modified power protocols. Initiating magnetic barrier around medical bay, Reed said, synchronizing with shield harmonics. A translucent field of energy materialized around the medical section, its subtle blue glow visible through the observation windows. The K-Tarian energy weapons dissipated harmlessly against the new defensive layer. Neural crystal formation accelerating, Nash reported, adjusting the quantum imaging resolution. Growth rate exceeding projections by 100%. Coleman leaned forward, studying the sensor readings. These patterns they're self-propagating through previously dormant neural tissue. Confirmed, Nash said. The human interface design appears to have activated an unknown regenerative mechanism in K-Tarian physiology. A loud bang echoed through the station as a power conduit failed. The deck plates vibrated beneath their feet as Engineer Tor's voice came through the comm. Primary distribution network approaching critical threshold. Implementing Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha. The artificial gravity shifted, objects becoming noticeably lighter as Tor's redirected power from the gravitational control systems. Medical instruments and data tablets began floating off surfaces. Station gravity reduced to 0.8 standard, Tor's announced. Secure all loose equipment. Morrison grabbed a floating medical scanner, magnetizing it to his workstation. Motor control centers showing increased activity, neural mapping in progress. Wells synchronized his console with Morrison's readings, adjusting quantum sensor sensitivity, creating automated feedback loop to match neural response patterns. Through the observation window, Ambassador Kavek activated his comm unit as it signaled an incoming transmission. His expression brightened as he read the message. The Science Ministry has challenged Artal's authority, Kavek announced. His departure is delayed pending review. Time estimate, Commander Reynolds asked. 3 hours minimum before the response unit can launch. The medical bay's displays highlighted new energy signatures as objects appeared on the tactical grid. Multiple probes launching from K-Tarian vessels, Harper reported, designed to penetrate our defensive perimeter. Reed directed the automated defense drones to intercept the incoming threats. The small units moved with precision, their modified shield generators creating an overlapping barrier that caught the probes before they could reach the station's hull. Diverting additional power from gravity systems to reinforce medical bay shields, Reed said. Patterson analyzed the readings from Lena's neural tissue under the reduced gravity conditions. Dr. Coleman looked at these transmission rates. The lower gravity is reducing physical stress on the new neural pathways. Coleman nodded, adjusting Lena's position on the biobed, optimizing patient orientation to maximize signal propagation under current conditions. The station's power grid fluctuated as the Catarian vessels moved into attack formation. Warning indicators showed critical stress points developing throughout the distribution network as the combined demands of the medical equipment, defensive systems, and magnetic barrier taxed the available resources. Morrison highlighted a new series of neural readings. Final bridge connections ready for initialization. Integration rate holding steady at reduced gravity. Proceed with connection sequence, Coleman ordered, his hands steady on the neural interface controls as Admiral J-Raw's vessels took up strategic positions around the station. The quantum sensors hummed, guiding the final neural bridges into place as the medical team worked to complete the procedure before the arrival of High Commander Artal's forces. Outside the reinforced windows, the magnetic barrier continued to shimmer, holding firm against the Catarian interference patterns while the station's crew adapted to their new low-gravity environment. The medical team worked with practiced efficiency in the reduced gravity, their movements measured and precise as they secured equipment with magnetic clamps. Doctor. Coleman activated his magnetic boots, the soft click echoing through the medical bay as he anchored himself beside Lena's biobed. Final neural bridge sequence initiating, he announced, adjusting the interface controls. Secure all mobile equipment. Morrison tethered himself to his workstation, connecting secondary safety lines to critical monitoring equipment. Neural integration rate increasing. The reduced gravity is enhancing signal propagation. Through the observation window, flashes of energy illuminated the station's defensive barrier as Admiral J-Raw's vessels launched their first coordinated strike. The deck vibrated beneath them as concentrated energy pulses impacted the station's shields. Power distribution hub under direct assault, Reed reported, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. Defense drones responding. The automated units moved into intercept positions, their modified shields absorbing the Catarian energy weapons. Warning indicators flashed as their power reserves dropped sharply. Drone energy levels at 30%, Patterson announced. Implementing power cycling protocols. He transmitted new power distribution patterns to his engineering teams. Teams 2 and 4, prepare for manual regulation on my mark. Dr. Nash's quantum sensors detected an unexpected energy signature within Lena's neural tissue. Dr. Coleman, the crystal matrices are generating autonomous electrical patterns. They're mimicking our interface signals. Coleman studied the readings, noting the self-sustaining neural activity. TORs, power requirements for medical systems have dropped by 31%. Redirect excess capacity to station defense. Redistributing power now, TORs confirmed. Gravity reduced to 0.7 standard to optimize crystal formation. Medical instruments drifted further from their original positions as the artificial gravity decreased. Wells secured a floating diagnostic panel while monitoring the enhanced crystal growth patterns. Security, Chief Harper's voice cut through the focused atmosphere. Multiple boarding pods detected. They're targeting medical section access points. The station's defense turrets activated, their targeting systems tracking the incoming threats. Automated weapons fire filled the space around the medical bay as the repurposed Debris defense system engaged the Catarian pods. Natural neural regeneration incorporating quantum sensor elements, Morrison reported, highlighting new readings. The crystal structures are forming permanent bridges independent of our interface. Ambassador Kavek's comm unit signaled again. He activated the secure channel, reading the incoming message with growing interest. Medical professionals across 3 colony worlds are protesting Artal's intervention. The Science Ministry reports widespread demands for protocol reform. Coleman maintained his focus on the neural interface calibration as coherent signals began flowing through Lena's restored pathways. The quantum sensors tracked successful integration across her nervous system, displaying steadily climbing percentages. Integration at 92%, Morrison announced. Remaining sections showing accelerated recovery. Engineer Tor's warning cut through the medical bay's communications, detecting power signatures consistent with electromagnetic pulse preparation, all K-Terrian vessels charging weapons systems. Patterson activated the emergency shielding protocols, his engineering teams moving to reinforce critical systems, implementing adaptive shield harmonics. Medical power supply now isolated from main grid. The medical bay systems hummed as the final neural bridges formed under precisely controlled conditions. Outside, the station's modified defense drones continued their protective dance, their power reserves cycling between active and recharge states as they maintained their defensive screen against the mounting K-Terrian assault. 4 to 5 minutes required for final calibration, Coleman announced, adjusting interface settings with steady hand as the station's defensive systems prepared for the K-Terrians' next attack. The quantum sensors continued their precise work, guiding the integration of organic and artificial neural components, while the crystal matrices in Lena's spine generated their self-sustaining electrical patterns. A blinding flash lit up the observation windows as the K-Terrian electromagnetic pulse struck the station's outer defenses. The deck plates shuddered violently as power fluctuations cascaded through the structure. Impact, Tors called out, implementing emergency protocol Delta 3. Specially insulated conduits activated throughout the medical bay, creating protected power channels that kept critical systems online. The artificial gravity shifted erratically, causing medical instruments to bounce between deck and ceiling as the field oscillated between 0.6 and 0.8 standard. Coleman braced himself against Lena's biobed, maintaining steady control of the neural interface despite the unstable environment. Status of integration process. Crystal formations generating synchronized patterns, Nash reported, eyes fixed on his quantum readouts. Integration exceeding all projected parameters. The hybrid structures are. They're replicating our interface signals independently. The medical bay's main lights flickered as another power surge hit. Tors gestured to a newcomer entering through the sealed airlock. Doctor. Coleman, this is emergency power specialist Marcus Reeves. He's brought something that might help. Reeves moved quickly to unpack several sleek cylindrical devices from his equipment case. Portable fusion cells, designed specifically for medical applications. We can create an independent power grid for essential systems. Make it happen, Coleman ordered, adjusting his interface controls as Lena's neural readings spiked. Morrison, status update. 96% integration across restored pathways. The hybrid crystals are expanding beyond the damaged sites, enhancing signal transmission throughout her entire nervous system. A thunderous impact rattled the station as the defense drones engaged the first wave of K-Terrian boarding pods. Through the rapidly closing titanium shutters, they glimpsed the automated units expending their final energy reserves to protect the medical section. Drones depleted, Reed announced, activating backup defensive measures. Emergency bulkheads slid into place with pneumatic hisses, sealing off the medical bay. Patterson directed his engineering teams to reinforce critical junctions, while Reeves connected the fusion cells to key medical systems. Independent power grid online, Reeves confirmed. Medical systems isolated from main distribution network. The timing proved crucial as a second electromagnetic pulse temporarily darkened the station's primary systems. Coleman's neural interface continued operating smoothly, powered by Reeves' fusion cells as the crystal formations in Lena's spine generated increasingly complex signal patterns. Chief Harper, Kvek called out suddenly. Those new contacts approaching from the outer system, they're transmitting science ministry codes. Harper verified the signatures on his tactical display. Confirmed. Medical vessels from the research fleet. The effect was immediate. Admiral Jayral's ships ceased their attack as the Science Ministry vessels moved into defensive positions around the station. Breaking off their assault would have meant firing on their own medical ships, a violation of fundamental Catarian protocols. Gravity stabilized at point 0.7 standard, Torres reported as Walker helped him fine-tune power distribution through the new independent grid. Crystal formation rate optimal under current conditions. Morrison's console emitted a series of rapid alerts. Dr. Coleman detecting conscious neural activity spreading through restored pathways, motor function returning to lower extremities. Coleman adjusted the final calibration sequences, his movements precise despite the reduced gravity. The quantum sensors tracked each new neural bridge as it formed, displaying steadily climbing integration percentages, while the Science Ministry ships maintained their protective screen around the station. Nash highlighted a new series of readings on his display. The hybrid structures are generating synchronized patterns across all major nerve clusters. Signal strength 20% above baseline Catarian norms. The artificial crystal matrices pulsed with subtle bioelectrical activity as conscious signals began flowing through Lena's restored neural network. Outside the sealed medical bay, Admiral Jayral's warships faced off against the Science Ministry vessels in a tense standoff that gave Coleman's team the precious minutes they needed to complete their work. Final calibration sequence commencing, Coleman announced, his fingers dancing across the neural interface controls while Reeves' fusion cells hummed quietly in the background. The hybrid crystals continued their steady growth, bridging damaged pathways as Lena's restored nervous system approached full activation. Functionality. Morrison's monitoring station displayed a cascade of neural activity spreading through the restored pathways. Neural integration complete, Morrison announced, highlighting key indicators on his display. Detecting autonomous signal generation across all major nerve clusters. Coleman nodded, his fingers moving with practiced precision across the interface controls. Beginning power reduction sequence. Anderson, I need your expertise on prosthetic calibration. Medical technician Paul Anderson stepped forward, his magnetic boots clicking against the deck as he approached the biobed. He studied the neural readings, noting the crystal formation's self-sustaining patterns. Remarkable efficiency, Anderson said, adjusting calibration parameters. The hybrid structures are matching our transmission patterns perfectly. We can start decreasing artificial support. The medical bay's systems hummed at a lower frequency as Anderson guided the systematic reduction in interface power. Nash's quantum sensors tracked each adjustment, confirming the crystal matrices maintained stable signal propagation. First voluntary muscle response detected, Walker called out, pointing to a slight movement in Lena's left foot. Motor pathways showing green across the board. Torres worked at his engineering station, rerouting power through Reeves' fusion cells as another electromagnetic pulse struck the station's outer defenses. The independent medical grid held steady, protecting the sensitive calibration equipment. Defense Systems Specialist Walker, Reed announced over the comm. Report to secondary medical control. We need those portable shield generators installed immediately. Walker retrieved several compact devices from his equipment case, moving efficiently in the reduced gravity. He positioned the generators around critical monitoring stations, their protective fields forming overlapping layers of defense. Through the sealed observation windows, the Catarian medical vessels maintained their protective formation. Ambassador Kavek's console chimed with an incoming transmission. Research Director Katal's credentials confirmed, Kavek reported. The Science Ministry's emergency protocols are now in effect. Admiral J-Rawl cannot legally take action against this station without facing severe consequences. Chief Harper's tactical display tracked the standoff between the opposing Katarian forces. All defensive turrets remain active. No additional boarding pods detected. Patterson fine-tuned the artificial gravity controls, drawing power from the fusion cells to maintain exactly 0.7 standard. Medical instruments hung steadily in their magnetic holders as the reduced gravitational field created optimal conditions for neural calibration. Neural efficiency, 27% above baseline, Nash announced, studying the quantum sensor data. The crystal structures have enhanced signal transmission beyond normal parameters. Coleman began final preparations for awakening Lena from sedation. Morrison, initiate consciousness transition protocols. Anderson, maintain calibration oversight during the process. Anderson's fingers danced across his control panel, monitoring the interface's power reduction as Lena's natural neural activity increased. The hybrid crystals pulsed with bioelectrical patterns, seamlessly integrating artificial and organic signals. TORS worked with Walker to establish additional power routing protocols, creating redundant pathways through the independent grid. The portable shield generators hummed quietly, their protective field steady despite the occasional power fluctuations from J-Rawl's continued electromagnetic attacks. Consciousness transition protocols engaged, Morrison confirmed, tracking the steady rise in higher brain function. Crystal matrices responding within expected parameters, integration holding stable at all points. The medical bay systems adjusted automatically as they transitioned from surgical operations to recovery monitoring. Coleman watched the neural readings carefully, preparing for the critical moment when Lena would first regain consciousness with her enhanced nervous system. Maintain current gravity levels, Coleman ordered. Keep all monitoring systems at full sensitivity. We're about to see exactly how well these neural bridges perform. The quantum sensors continued their precise measurements as Lena's restored neural network approached the threshold of consciousness, while outside the medical bay, the delicate balance of Katarian politics and military power held their protective screen in place. Neural readings stable, Morrison announced as Lena's eyelids flickered, conscious activity spreading through restored pathways in a controlled progression. Anderson adjusted the neural interface controls with practiced precision, power output decreasing to 60%, natural neural functions taking over smoothly. The medical bay doors cycled open as Dr. Thomas Wright entered, pushing a cart laden with specialized monitoring equipment. He nodded to Coleman while setting up his instruments around Lena's biobed. Dr. Wright, our pediatric neural specialist, Coleman explained to the team. His expertise will be crucial during these first moments of consciousness. Wright calibrated his equipment, focusing on microscopic muscle response detection. First readings coming in now. Signal propagation through restored pathways at 131% of Katarian baseline. A soft hum filled the air as Torres and Reeves noted an unexpected energy signature on their displays. Doctor, the crystal matrices are generating their own M field, Torres reported, adjusting his sensors. Pattern matches our interface transmission protocols, but with improved efficiency. Patterson moved to a nearby engineering station, recalibrating medical sensors to compensate for the natural field generation. We don't want any interference with monitoring systems. Fascinating, Nash muttered, recording the data. The hybrid structures have developed self-sustaining transmission capabilities beyond our projections. Walker worked with Harper to reposition the portable shield generators, creating an enclosed recovery space around Lena's biobed. The protective field shimmered briefly as they synchronized. Microenvironment stable at 0.7 gravity, Walker confirmed. Local shielding grid active. The timing proved perfect. Another electromagnetic pulse from J-Rawl's ships dissipated harmlessly against the enhanced barriers. Kavek's console chimed with an incoming transmission from the Science Ministry vessels. Research Director Ktal is sending historical data, Kavek announced. Previous neural restoration attempts. They never accounted for gravity modification or hybrid crystal formation. No wonder they failed. Morrison's monitoring station emitted a series of alerts. Movement detected voluntary muscle control in the fingers of her right hand. The team watched as Lena's fingers twitched, responding to restored neural pathways with unprecedented precision. TORS quickly adjusted power distribution through the fusion cells, maintaining optimal conditions as neural activity increased. Crystal formations are perfectly synchronized with natural impulses, Wright observed, studying his specialized readouts. Response time 4 to 3% faster than standard neural transmission. Commander Reynolds' voice came through the comm system. Medical team, be advised High Commander Artal's emergency response unit has been officially recalled by the Science Ministry. Admiral J-Rawl is withdrawing from attack positions but maintaining observation distance. Coleman nodded to Anderson. Begin final consciousness transition. Morrison, prepare sensory dampening fields we need to prevent neural overload from enhanced transmission rates. Anderson's fingers danced across his controls, carefully reducing artificial support as Lena's natural neural functions strengthened. The crystal matrices pulsed with increasing energy, their bioelectrical patterns visible even to the naked eye. Neural efficiency at 104% of baseline, Nash reported. The hybrid structures are creating pathways far more sophisticated than standard Katarian configurations. Lena's breathing changed rhythm as consciousness approached. Wright monitored her muscle responses intently while Coleman prepared for this crucial phase of recovery. The crystal formations continued generating their steady energy field, powering neural transmissions with remarkable efficiency as their patient prepared to wake into a new reality of enhanced neural function. Wright's monitoring equipment registered a cascade of neural activity as Lena's eyelids fluttered. Neural response patterns strengthening efficiency now at 157% of baseline, he announced, adjusting his sensor array. Introducing Dr. Marcus Fuller, our physical rehabilitation expert. Fuller stepped forward, magnetic boots clicking against the deck as he positioned his specialized equipment around the biobed. Detecting coordinated muscle activation spreading through the upper thoracic region, he reported, studying the real-time data streams. Signal propagation extending into previously compromised pathways. Anderson's fingers moved across the neural interface controls, systematically reducing power to the prosthetic components. Natural neural function taking over smoothly. Crystal matrices maintaining optimal transmission without artificial support. Tors glanced up from his engineering station. Doctor, these readings the hybrid formations are generating a stable electromagnetic field. He adjusted his sensors, face illuminated by the shifting displays. It's actually reinforcing nearby neural connections. Adapting power distribution protocols, Patterson said, moving to a secondary console. Redirecting medical grid to prevent field interference. Reeves, monitor those fusion cells. We need clean power for the sensitive equipment. Coleman nodded to a newly arrived specialist. Sarah Mitchell, neural response coordinator. Her expertise in pediatric motor control will be crucial during these first moments. Mitchell activated her specialized sensor array, tracking the subtle muscular responses rippling through Lena's body. Motor control readings exceeding standard parameters by 4 to 3%. The reduced gravity environment is allowing for unprecedented precision in neural calibration. Harper's tactical display flashed with new alerts, detecting focused scanning attempts from J-Rawl's vessels. They're trying to gather data on the hybrid technology. Activating enhanced electromagnetic screening, Walker responded, fingers dancing across his control panel. The protective field shimmed into place around the medical bay, its invisible barrier blocking external scans while maintaining the carefully controlled microenvironment. KVEC's console chimed repeatedly. Research Director K-Tal is broadcasting the procedure data across K-Tarian medical networks. The response is overwhelming thousands of practitioners supporting protocol modification. Doctor Coleman, Nash called out, studying his quantum sensor readings. Secondary crystal formation detected along neural pathways. The structures appear to be creating redundant transmission channels. A new figure stepped through the medical bay doors. James Rodriguez, environmental systems expert, Coleman introduced. We need precise atmospheric control for this phase. Rodriguez moved to the environmental controls, implementing careful adjustments, establishing optimal conditions for crystal growth, temperature and pressure gradients aligned with neural integration parameters. Lena's leg moved a small but deliberate motion that drew every eye in the medical bay. Fuller's monitoring equipment tracked the movement with precise detail. Voluntary muscle control established in lower extremities, neural efficiency holding steady at enhanced levels. Fascinating, Wright muttered, studying his pediatric neural readings. The crystal structures aren't just replacing damaged pathways, they're creating an entirely new network architecture. Morrison Station emitted a series of alerts, conscious brain activity increasing. Primary motor cortex showing enhanced signal strength. Maintain current gravity at 0.7, Coleman ordered. Rodriguez, lock down those environmental parameters. Fuller, prepare for initial motor function assessment. The hybrid crystal matrices pulsed with bioelectrical energy, their self-generated field maintaining perfect neural transmission as Lena's consciousness continued to surface. Through the medical bay's windows, JRAL's vessels held position, their military scanning arrays now reconfigured for medical observation. Beginning detailed motor response mapping, Mitchell announced, activating a new set of sensors. Crystal networks showing remarkable stability during enhanced neural transmission. Torres worked with Patterson to refine the power distribution grid, channeling the crystal-generated energy into supporting systems. The modified environmental controls hummed quietly, maintaining the precise conditions needed for the next crucial phase of Lena's recovery. Dr. Richard Hayes, Coleman announced as another specialist entered the medical bay, carrying advanced monitoring equipment. Our movement specialist, here to assess Lena's enhanced neural responses. Hayes moved with practiced efficiency, setting up his specialized sensors around the biobed. Initial readings coming in now. These leg movements show remarkable precision for early recovery. Nash's quantum sensors chirped insistently. Doctor, detecting formation of tertiary neural pathways. The crystal structures are creating additional redundant networks. Signal transmission at 189% above baseline, Torres reported, adjusting electromagnetic shielding around the sensitive equipment, implementing additional field barriers to protect monitoring systems. Patterson's eyes widened at his engineering display. The hybrid network is interfacing with our power grid, creating some kind of stabilizing effect. Confirmed, Reeves said, fingers dancing across his console, modifying fusion cell configuration to utilize the feedback loop. Power efficiency up 27% across recovery systems. The medical bay doors cycled open again as Harper escorted a uniformed figure carrying military-grade equipment. Combat Medic Sergeant Wilson, Harper introduced. His battlefield neural monitoring gear might handle these enhanced signals better than standard equipment. Wilson's reinforced sensors came online just as Lena's neural output exceeded civilian monitoring thresholds. Military-grade systems tracking successfully, he confirmed. getting much clearer feedback on recovery progression. CaveX Communications panel lit up with incoming transmissions. Research Director K-Tao reports there detecting the neural energy signatures at range. The crystal formation's power output exceeds all previous records. Morrison studied his bio readings intently. Enhanced sensory processing beginning. Her tactile sensitivity and motor control precision are showing significant improvements. Implementing modified recovery protocols, Fuller said, adjusting his rehabilitation equipment. These capabilities are well beyond standard parameters. Rodriguez worked at the environmental controls, making precise adjustments. Temperature and pressure optimization engaged. Neural efficiency increases 8% under these specific atmospheric conditions. The medical bay doors opened once more, revealing a man in an Earth Advanced Medical Research Division uniform. Dr. Benjamin Cooper, he announced, wheeling in prototype monitoring equipment. I came as soon as I reviewed the preliminary data. This hybrid neural network requires specialized observation tools. Cooper's advanced sensors integrated seamlessly with Hayes's movement monitoring equipment as Lena began her first coordinated exercises. Her fingers curled and uncurled with machine-like precision, while her legs maintained steady, controlled motion. Remarkable muscle control, Hayes observed, tracking the movement patterns. The enhanced neural pathways are allowing for unprecedented coordination. Wright's pediatric neural monitors registered steady increases in sensory integration. Central nervous system, accepting enhanced input without signs of rejection or overload. Harper's tactical display showed new contacts entering the system. Additional Catarian medical vessels approaching. Looks like the whole scientific community is taking notice. Torres and Patterson continued modifying power systems to handle the crystal network's increasing energy output. The hybrid formations pulsed with steady bioelectrical patterns, their self-generated field strengthening nearby neural connections while powering the sophisticated medical equipment monitoring Lena's recovery. Neural efficiency now at 193% of baseline, Cooper reported, studying his prototype sensors. These crystal matrices aren't just replacing damaged pathways, they're creating an entirely new paradigm of neural architecture. Wilson's military-grade equipment tracked the cascade of neural signals as Lena demonstrated increasingly complex movements. The hybrid crystal network hummed with steady energy, its enhanced capabilities exceeding all previous medical records while maintaining perfect stability under the watchful eyes of the assembled specialists. Dr. Mark Stevens, pediatric physical therapy specialist, Coleman announced as the medical bay doors opened once more. Stevens guided a sophisticated piece of equipment through the entrance, a gleaming mobility assistance frame surrounded by a shifting electromagnetic field. Bringing the low-gravity support system online now, Stevens said, positioning the frame near Lena's bio-bed. The device hummed to life, its field harmonizing with the station's artificial gravity. Nash's quantum sensors chirped urgently. Doctor detecting formation of quaternary neural pathways. The crystal structures are expanding their network architecture. Anderson's fingers flew across his console, implementing rapid modifications to the monitoring systems. Adjusting sensor parameters to track expanded neural activity. Motor control potential now exceeding standard parameters by 212%. Patterson's engineering display flashed red. Medical bay, we have an anomaly. The hybrid neural network is generating significant power output. He studied the readings with widening eyes. Energy levels sufficient to run nearby medical equipment independently. Implementing emergency power grid modifications, Reeves announced, already reconfiguring the fusion cell array. The medical bay doors cycled open as a new figure strode in. Dr. William Foster, power integration expert, Foster said, wheeling in specialized equipment. Let's get that neural energy properly integrated into the power distribution network. Harper's tactical display lit up with new alerts. Admiral J-Rawls vessels are modifying their scanning patterns, detecting focused energy pulses targeting our medical sections. Lieutenant Drake, advanced shielding expert, Walker introduced as another officer entered carrying prototype equipment. His deflection systems will maintain our security while allowing standard communications. Drake moved to the defensive systems, fingers dancing across the controls. Implementing selective frequency barriers now. This should block their detailed scans while maintaining open channels. K-Tal's voice came through KVEC's communications panel. Station Medical were detecting remarkable gravitoniral interactions, transmitting data now. Dr. James Henderson, gravitational medicine specialist, announced a newcomer, already setting up specialized monitoring equipment. These readings suggest the reduced gravity is amplifying neural transmission efficiency by a factor of 3. Morrison's biomonitors chimed. Enhanced proprioception detected. Her spatial awareness processing is accelerating exponentially. Dr. Robert Phillips, neurokinetics expert, Coleman introduced as another specialist entered with advanced motion tracking equipment. We'll need precise measurements of these enhanced positioning capabilities. Rodriguez worked with newly arrived life support specialist Trevor Barnes, their fingers moving in concert across the environmental controls. Implementing optimal atmospheric mix for crystal growth, temperature and pressure gradients locked. Stevens guided his mobility frame into position as Lena demonstrated increasingly precise finger movements. The electromagnetic field hummed softly, ready to support her first attempts at walking with her enhanced neural network. Integration of neural power output at 60%, Torres reported from his engineering station. His display showed steady energy flow from Lena's crystal matrices into the station's distribution grid. Through the medical bay windows, new vessels appeared in formation around J. Rawls' ship's Catarian research craft, arriving to study this breakthrough. Their presence highlighted the growing significance of what was happening in this room, as Stevens prepared to help Lena take her first steps with capabilities that exceeded anything previously documented in human or Catarian medical records. The hybrid crystal matrices pulsed with steady bioelectrical patterns, while Foster's power integration systems channeled their excess energy into the medical bay's sophisticated equipment. Drake's selective shielding deflected the probing scans from the gathered vessels, maintaining a protective bubble around Lena's revolutionary recovery. Initiating first mobility test, Stevens announced, guiding the electromagnetic frame into its final position. The device's field harmonized with the station's artificial gravity, creating a precise support matrix around Lena's biobed. Dr. Ryan Matthews entered the medical bay, wheeling a sleek console covered in holographic displays. Balance control specialist, he said, immediately connecting his equipment to the existing sensor network. These equilibrium monitors will track her enhanced proprioception in real time. Nash's quantum sensors emitted a series of rapid chirps, neural response time exceeding Catarian baseline by 312%, he reported, adjusting his displays. The crystal network is processing positional data faster than our equipment can track it. Implementing enhanced sampling rate, Anderson said, his fingers dancing across the sensor controls. Reconfiguring arrays to match neural speed. Torres studied his engineering readouts with growing interest. Doctor, the neural emissions are creating beneficial resonance patterns with our medical equipment. He gestured to Foster, who was already unpacking specialized power collectors from a nearby storage unit. Setting up neural-compatible power grid now, Foster said, positioning the collectors around Lena's recovery area. The devices hummed to life, their internal crystals aligning with the energy patterns emanating from her enhanced nervous system. The medical bay doors opened to admit Dr. Alexander Kane, who guided a cart carrying sleek, experimental equipment. "Medical power systems specialist," he said, immediately moving to integrate his prototype neural power distribution units into the growing array of collectors. Patterson's voice came through the engineering channel. "Medical Bay, we're detecting shield reinforcement from these neural frequencies. The crystal emissions naturally disrupt K-Terrian scanning patterns." Commander Thomas Reed strode into the bay carrying experimental shield harmonics equipment. "Defense Integration Specialist," he announced, setting up his monitoring station. "Let's see exactly how these crystal frequencies interact with our defensive systems." Through the medical bay windows, a small shuttle departed from K-Tau's vessel, docking with precise efficiency. Moments later, a female K-Terrian in scientific attire entered the bay. "Dr. Emrao," she introduced herself, her presence drawing surprised looks from the human staff. "Neural science expert. The medical council's restrictions no longer outweigh the significance of this breakthrough." Harper's tactical display lit up with new transmission patterns. Detecting encrypted data streams from Admiral J-Rawls vessels to the K-Terrian homeworld. Lieutenant Peter Walsh arrived at the security station, connecting specialized decryption equipment. "Military Command is documenting the defensive applications," he reported, studying the decoded transmissions. "They're considering adaptation rather than opposition." Reeves worked at his power distribution console, tracking energy flows through the modified grid. "The neural emissions focus perfectly through crystalline structures," he observed, "creating highly efficient transmission pathways." Dr. James Morrison entered with prototype crystal arrays, their faceted surfaces designed to amplify natural energy patterns. "Crystal engineering expert," he said, immediately beginning to integrate his equipment with the power collection system. Stevens activated the mobility frame support field. "Beginning controlled walking test," he announced as Lena's legs moved with machine-like precision. "Partial gravity support engaged." The hybrid crystal matrices pulsed with steady bioelectrical patterns as she took her first supported step. Matthew's equilibrium monitors displayed perfect balance coordination, while Emrao studied the neural readings with unconcealed fascination. Kane's power distribution units hummed quietly, channeling her neural emissions into the station's systems, as Reed's defensive monitors recorded the shield-enhancing frequencies. "Neural efficiency now at 318% of baseline," Cooper reported from his prototype sensors. "Crystal network architecture continuing to evolve during mobility testing." Morrison's amplification arrays captured and focused the neural energy emissions, while Walsh's decryption equipment continued tracking the K-Terrian military's growing interest in the technology's applications. Through the medical bay windows, more research vessels took up position around J-Rawls ships, their sensors carefully studying this unprecedented meeting of human and K-Terrian medical science. "Dr. Alan Parker, pediatric mobility specialist," Coleman announced as another figure entered the medical bay, wheeling a sleek console of neural monitoring equipment. Parker immediately connected his specialized sensors to the existing array, the displays lighting up with intricate movement pattern analysis. "These adaptation rates are extraordinary," Parker said, studying the real-time data streams. "Her neural network's learning algorithms are operating at 5 times normal human parameters." Torres moved between engineering stations, his attention caught by an unexpected energy signature. The neural emissions are self-organizing into coherent distribution patterns. He gestured to the newly arrived Dr. Christopher Ward, who was already unpacking specialized bioenergy integration units. "Implementing biological power bridge now," Ward said, positioning his prototype equipment. The devices hummed to life, creating stable channels between Lena's neural network and the station's power systems. Harper's tactical display flashed urgent warnings. Admiral Jayral's ships are attempting to replicate our crystal frequencies. He nodded to Lieutenant David Marshall, who quickly set up advanced frequency modulation equipment at the defensive station. Implementing randomized harmonic patterns, Marshall said, his fingers dancing across the controls. This should prevent unauthorized signal duplication while maintaining shield integrity. The medical bay doors opened unexpectedly, admitting a K-Terrian figure in scientific attire. Dr. F. Rao, she announced, carrying detailed crystal engineering data. I bring knowledge that may aid your research. Nash immediately began integrating F. Rao's crystal formation data into his models. These traditional techniques are increasing neural efficiency by 4 to 7%, he reported, studying the improved growth patterns. Lena took her first unassisted step, and Patterson's engineering display lit up. Detecting localized gravitational anomalies, he said as Dr. Michael Cooper rushed to set up specialized field measurement equipment. The crystal network is generating independent microgravity fields, Cooper reported, calibrating his sensors. Each step creates a perfectly stable gravitational pocket. K-Tal's voice came through the communications system. Station Medical, our sensors detect direct neural interface capability with K-Terrian systems. Dr. Thomas Reed moved to the communications station, connecting experimental interface equipment. Establishing cross-species medical link, Reed announced. His displays showed the first successful bridge between human and K-Terrian medical technology. Reeves studied his power distribution readouts with concern. Neural emissions are affecting nearby electronics, he said as Dr. Kevin Edwards wheeled in prototype containment equipment. Implementing selective shielding grid, Edwards said, activating his specialized field generators. The devices created a precise barrier that contained the powerful emissions while allowing beneficial energy transfer. Lena maintained her balance without support, the hybrid crystal matrices pulsing steadily. Through the medical bay windows, Admiral Jayral's vessels adjusted their positions, their weapons systems remaining inactive but ready. Efrau worked with Nash's team, her expertise guiding the crystal formations into increasingly efficient patterns. Stevens monitored Lena's movements on his medical displays, while Parker's equipment tracked her accelerated learning patterns. Ward's bioenergy systems hummed quietly, channeling her neural emissions into the station's power grid through precisely controlled pathways. Neural interface stability at 98%, Reed reported from his station. The cross-species medical link is fully operational. Cooper's gravity sensors chirped steadily as Lena took another step, each movement surrounded by its own perfectly controlled gravitational field. Marshall's frequency modulators protected these unique energy signatures, while Edwards' containment grid managed their increasing power. The hybrid crystals pulsed with growing strength, their enhanced formations guided by the combination of human innovation and K-Terrian expertise. Through the medical bay windows, research vessels continued their careful observation of this unprecedented technological convergence. Breakthrough. As the research vessels maintained their observation positions, Dr. Brian Mitchell entered the medical bay with a sleek array of biofeedback equipment. Advanced motor control specialist, Mitchell said, connecting his systems to the existing sensor network. The holographic displays lit up with intricate motion analysis patterns. These readings. He paused, adjusting the calibration. Her neural processing speed for movement execution is 7 times baseline human parameters. Patterson's voice cut through the concentrated silence. Medical, we're detecting organized energy patterns forming throughout the station's power grid. The neural emissions are creating stable transmission corridors. Dr. James Harrison stepped through the medical bay doors, pushing a cart laden with prototype equipment. Power Systems Integration Expert, Earth Advanced Energy Research Division. He immediately began setting up neural-compatible power regulators. The devices hummed to life, establishing permanent channels for Lena's crystal-generated energy. Harper's tactical display flashed red. Admiral Jayral's vessels are shifting formation. Combat pattern detected. Major Robert Wilson arrived at the security station, his experimental tactical analysis equipment revealing a disturbing pattern. "They're attempting to establish a containment field around the station," Wilson reported, his fingers moving rapidly across the controls. Commander Reynolds' voice came through the comm system, implementing emergency defensive protocols as the Catarian ships continued their repositioning. The medical bay doors opened again, admitting a Catarian figure who moved with urgent purpose. "Dr. V. Rao," she announced, carrying data crystals. "I bring research on failed crystal formation attempts in pure Catarian neural tissue." Coleman's team immediately began analyzing V. Rao's data. "This explains the success of our hybrid approach," Coleman said, studying the detailed failure analysis. "The human neural architecture provides essential stability factors." Engineering to medical, Tor's voice carried tension. "We're detecting subspace field generation from the patient's neural network." "Doctor." Andrew Cooper rushed to set up experimental subspace measurement equipment, his displays showing impossible readings. "The hybrid crystals are creating stable subspace channels," Cooper reported, adjusting his sensors. "These readings suggest immediate applications for communications and power transmission." Reeves moved between power distribution stations with growing concern. Crystal formations detected in the main power grid. They're replicating the patient's neural patterns. Dr. Mark Stevens arrived with specialized containment equipment, immediately establishing a monitoring grid around the affected systems. "Implementing crystal growth tracking protocols," Stevens said, his equipment creating a precise map of the spreading formations. The containment field channeled the enhanced energy output into controlled pathways. Catal's research vessels transmitted new data as their sensors detected shield interactions. Lieutenant John Marshall set up prototype harmonics equipment, creating a hybrid shield matrix that incorporated Lena's neural emissions. Shield effectiveness increased by 89%, Marshall reported, studying the enhanced defensive readings. Through the medical bay windows, Admiral Jayral's vessels continued their aggressive positioning while additional Catarian research ships arrived, their presence highlighting the growing divide within their society. Lena took another step, her movements now completely independent of the support frame. The hybrid crystals pulsed with steady rhythm as Mitchell's biofeedback equipment tracked her accelerating neural adaptation. Harrison's power regulators hummed quietly, channeling her energy emissions through the newly established corridors, while Stevens' containment grid managed the spreading crystal growth. V. Rao worked with Coleman's team, their combined expertise revealing new insights into the hybrid technology's success. Cooper's subspace sensors chirped steadily as the neural network generated precisely controlled field effects. Above the station, Marshall's enhanced shields created an iridescent barrier against the looming Catarian vessels. Warning klaxons pierced the concentrated silence as Harper's tactical display erupted with urgent alerts. Multiple tractor beam signatures detected. Jayral's vessels are establishing a containment grid. Dr. Eric Matthews burst through the medical bay doors, wheeling in sleek counterbeam equipment. "Tractor field specialist," he announced, immediately connecting his prototype systems. The devices hummed to life, generating precise interference patterns. Lena's neural emissions surged unexpectedly, causing Foster's power integration displays to light up with cascading energy signatures. "The hybrid crystals are generating stabilizing frequencies," he reported, studying the readings. They're naturally disrupting the tractor beam harmonics. Dr. Raymond Phillips arrived at Foster's station, unpacking specialized field analysis equipment. His sensors mapped the interaction between Lena's neural frequencies and the station's structural integrity field. The crystal resonance is strengthening our structural supports by 200%. Engineering to medical, Patterson's voice carried urgency. Crystal formations detected throughout the power distribution network. Dr. Henry Wallace stepped forward, activating containment units that created precise channels for the spreading nodes. Establishing growth control protocols, Wallace said, his equipment tracking the crystalline patterns. The displays showed beneficial formations strengthening key systems, while specialized fields prevented interference with critical components. Reeves moved between engineering stations with increasing speed. The crystal nodes are generating independent power signatures. Dr. Thomas Bradley connected prototype management units, creating stable distribution pathways for the new energy sources. Power generation exceeding station baseline by 140%, Bradley reported, as his equipment synchronized the crystal-produced energy across multiple systems. Through the medical bay windows, K-TAL's vessels executed a precise maneuver. Commander Paul Davidson's voice came through the comm system. Shield synchronization expert reporting, beginning multi-vessel field integration. Davidson's experimental harmonics equipment established the first neural-powered shield links between Allied ships. The protective fields shimmered with enhanced energy as Lena's neural patterns created a synchronized defense network. Major William Rivers studied his tactical displays intently. J-RAL's containment formation has a critical weakness, he announced, his battle simulation equipment mapping vulnerability points. Their tractor beam configuration exposes them to focused shield resonance. The medical sensors chirped rapidly as Dr. Jason Cooper connected specialized neural monitoring equipment. Detecting stable subspace channel formation throughout the patient's nervous system, he reported, adjusting his calibration. Signal coherence at 97%. Torres worked at the main engineering station, his fingers moving across multiple control surfaces, integrating crystal power into defensive systems. The shield generators hummed with increased energy as neural-generated power flowed through precisely controlled pathways. Through the observation windows, more K-Tarian vessels broke away from J-RAL's formation. The research ships took up position alongside K-TAL's growing contingent, their sensors actively studying the hybrid technology's defensive applications. Coleman monitored Lena's neural readings as she maintained perfect balance. The hybrid crystals pulsed steadily, their energy output strengthening both her mobility and the station's enhanced systems. Matthews' counterbeam equipment continued disrupting the weakening tractor grid, while Davidson's shield matrix protected the Allied vessels. Subspace signal coherence increasing, Cooper reported from his specialized station. The neural network is maintaining stable transmission through multiple channels simultaneously. His equipment tracked the expanding communication possibilities as the hybrid technology evolved beyond its original medical purpose. Bradley's power management systems hummed efficiently, distributing crystal-generated energy through the reinforced infrastructure. Wallace's containment fields guided the beneficial growth, while Rivers' tactical analysis revealed additional defensive advantages in the evolving technology. The medical bay hummed with focused activity as multiple teams worked to understand and control the rapidly developing situation. Through it all, Lena's neural emissions continued strengthening the station's systems, her hybrid crystal matrix adapting to each new challenge with increasing sophistication. A sudden cascade of alerts drew attention to Harper's tactical display. Admiral J-RAL's tractor array is experiencing systematic failures across multiple vessels, he reported, tracking the rapidly shifting energy signatures. Patterson's voice cut through the comm system. Engineering confirms the crystal formations are generating natural interference patterns. The frequency matches exactly. The medical bay doors slid open as Dr. Marcus Blackwood strode in, wheeling specialized monitoring equipment. "Tractor field neutralization expert," he announced, immediately connecting his systems to the station's sensor grid. "These crystal-generated patterns are perfectly tuned to disrupt K-Tarian tractor technology." Tours moved between engineering stations with increasing urgency. Crystal nodes throughout the power grid are linking together. The pattern. He paused, studying the readings. It mirrors Lena's neural pathway structure. Dr. Harold Mitchell emerged from the engineering section, prototype integration units filling his cart. "Power distribution specialist," he said, activating the devices. The units hummed to life, establishing stable transmission channels between crystal formation points. Harper's security station lit up with new movement patterns. Multiple K-Tarian vessels breaking from J-Rawls formation. His fingers flew across the controls as Colonel James Warren arrived, experimental shield harmonics equipment already active. "Confirmed defecting vessels are synchronizing shield frequencies with our crystal-enhanced grid," Warren reported, his displays showing perfect alignment between the defensive systems. Patterson's voice carried tension. "Chief engineer to medical crystal formations are attempting to interface with our computer systems." The medical bay doors opened again as Dr. Victor Stone rushed in, neural interface equipment in tow. "Beginning safe integration protocols," Stone announced, his specialized systems creating controlled pathways between the biological and artificial networks. K-Tal's research vessels transmitted urgent data. FTL enhancement detected in neural emission patterns. K-Tal's voice echoed through the comm. Dr. Richard Hammond arrived moments later, prototype transmission equipment already warming up. "Establishing crystal-enhanced subspace network," Hammond reported. His displays showed clear communication channels forming between the station and K-Tal's growing fleet. The medical sensors chirped rapidly as new quantum signatures appeared. Dr. Benjamin Cross stepped forward, quantum measurement devices tracking impossible readings. "The hybrid formations are maintaining room temperature quantum coherence," he reported. "Perfect entanglement across the entire crystal network." Reeves' power management station flashed with alerts. Self-replicating power generation patterns detected throughout the station. Dr. Samuel Nash moved quickly between distribution nodes, his experimental systems adapting to the exponential energy growth. "Power output exceeding all known theoretical limits," Nash reported, channeling the crystal-generated energy through carefully controlled pathways. Through the medical bay windows, Admiral J-Rawls' remaining vessels attempted to establish a secondary containment field. Their efforts faltered as more ships broke formation, moving to join K-Tal's expanding research fleet. The crystal network pulsed with steady rhythm, its enhanced capabilities strengthening both defensive systems and technological integration. Lena's neural emissions maintained perfect stability as the hybrid technology evolved beyond its medical origins. The station hummed with unprecedented energy as multiple teams worked to understand and control the rapidly advancing crystal matrix. Each new breakthrough revealed additional possibilities, while Admiral J-Rawls' diminishing fleet highlighted the shifting balance of power above the station. Harper's tactical display erupted with urgent alerts. Multiple quantum resonance signatures detected. J-Rawls' vessels are establishing a quantum containment field targeting our crystal node infrastructure. Dr. Marcus Reeves wheeled prototype quantum shield equipment through the medical bay doors. "Quantum field specialist," he announced, connecting sleek devices to the station's power grid. The equipment hummed to life, projecting precisely calibrated defensive fields around key crystal formations. Torres studied his engineering readouts intently. The neural emissions are creating quantum tunneling effects between crystal nodes. He adjusted power flow regulators as the displays showed energy patterns shifting through previously impossible vectors. Dr. William Blackburn arrived at Torres Station, unpacking specialized quantum containment units. Beginning tunnel stabilization protocols, he said, his equipment establishing controlled channels for the quantum phenomena. The devices mapped safe pathways through the station's infrastructure while preventing dangerous feedback loops. Engineering to medical crystal growth rate increasing exponentially. Patterson's voice carried urgency through the comm system. Dr. Robert Hayes stepped forward, activating prototype management arrays that created precise expansion zones throughout the station. Growth containment fields active, Hayes reported as his equipment guided the crystal formations. The displays showed beneficial integration with primary systems, while specialized barriers protected sensitive components from interference. Power specialist Reeves moved between monitoring stations with increasing speed. The quantum-enhanced network is generating defensive capabilities beyond our projected limits. Colonel Michael Stone connected experimental harmonics equipment, establishing the first crystal-powered shield grid spanning multiple decks. Shield strength exceeding K-Tarian military specifications, Stone reported as his systems synchronized the enhanced defensive network. Through the medical bay windows, J-Rawls' containment field flickered against the crystal-generated barrier. K-Tal's voice cut through the comm system. Station Medical, our sensors detect neural crystal quantum entanglement. Dr. James Morrison activated advanced measurement equipment, mapping the precise connections forming between Lena's neural patterns and the station-wide crystal matrix. Quantum coherence at 98%, Morrison reported, studying the intricate web of entangled systems. His displays showed stable processing networks extending throughout the crystal formations. Dr. Thomas Drake connected specialized neural interface equipment as the medical sensors tracked new patterns in Lena's hybrid integration. The patient's neural pathways are maintaining independent control while synchronizing with station-wide crystalline structures, he reported, adjusting quantum stability fields. Major David Wilson worked at Harper's Tactical Station, his battle simulation equipment revealing critical advantages. The crystal network's quantum properties allow shield projection beyond standard perimeter limits, he reported. J-Rawls' containment strategy is becoming ineffective. Tor's engineering displays lit up with unprecedented power readings, crystal quantum efficiency exceeding theoretical maximum. Dr. Alexander Walker stepped forward, connecting prototype quantum regulation systems that created stable distribution channels for the surging energy. Power flow stabilized across all systems, Walker reported as his equipment managed the crystal-generated output. The station hummed with enhanced energy while J-Rawls' containment field weakened against the quantum-reinforced defenses. The medical bay sensors tracked Lena's steady neural patterns as she moved with increasing confidence. Through the observation windows, additional K-Tarian vessels broke away from J-Rawls' remaining fleet, their sensors actively mapping the quantum phenomena generated by the hybrid crystal network. Morrison's equipment chirped steadily as the neural crystal matrix expanded its processing capabilities. The quantum entanglement created new possibilities for system integration, while Walker's power management kept pace with the network's evolution. Stone's enhanced shield grid maintained perfect coverage, as Wilson's tactical analysis revealed additional defensive applications. Harper's security station tracked the shifting battle lines as J-Rawls' containment attempt faltered against the station's quantum-enhanced systems. More research vessels joined K-Tal's growing fleet, while Hayes' growth management protocols guided the crystal network's controlled expansion. Through it all, Drake's neural interface equipment ensured Lena's continued independence as her hybrid integration achieved new levels of quantum coherence. The medical bay buzzed with concentrated activity as multiple teams worked to understand and direct the rapidly evolving situation. Above the station, the quantum-enhanced crystal matrix projected precise defensive fields that systematically neutralized J-Rawls' remaining tactical options. The hybrid technology continued adapting, its capabilities expanding beyond original parameters while maintaining stable integration across all systems. Harper's tactical displays flared with urgent alerts as quantum signatures blossomed across Admiral J-Rawls' remaining vessels. Multiple weapons powering up quantum disruptor signatures detected. Dr. Nathan Sterling burst through the medical bay doors, wheeling specialized equipment, quantum defense protocols initiating. His fingers flew across the controls, connecting crystal-compatible shield modulators to the station's defensive grid. The devices hummed to life, establishing resonant frequencies through the crystal network. Engineering to medical, Torres called over the comm. Crystal formations showing molecular restructuring patterns. His voice carried focused intensity as Dr. Warren Mitchell arrived at his station, activating specialized monitoring arrays. Confirmed, Mitchell reported, studying the readouts. The crystal matrix is reconfiguring to resist quantum disruption attempts, adaptation rate increasing. The medical sensors tracked new patterns in Lena's neural emissions. Patterson's voice cut through the activity. Chief engineer to medical patients' neural template providing network stability. Dr. Gregory Hammond moved swiftly to Lena's bedside, connecting advanced interface equipment. Neural synchronization steady, he reported as his systems established safe pathways between Lena's enhanced nervous system and the crystal matrix. Template integration at optimal levels. Through the observation windows, KTAL's research vessels moved into defensive formation. Dr. Lance Cooper worked at the shield control station, his experimental synchronization technology linking the defected Katarian ships through the crystal network. Unified defensive grid online, Cooper announced. His displays showed perfect alignment between vessel shields and the station's crystal-enhanced barrier. The first quantum disruptor impacts splashed harmlessly against the synchronized defenses. Reeves' power management station erupted with warnings as crystal-generated energy surged through the infrastructure. Dr. Frank Morrison connected specialized regulators to the station's power core, creating controlled channels for the excess output. Power containment stable, Morrison reported, directing the enhanced energy flow into defensive systems. The crystal network pulsed with increasing strength as each quantum attack dissipated against reinforced shields. Torres studied his engineering readouts intently. Automated repair protocols detected throughout crystal formations. Dr. Keith Bradley stepped forward, prototype integration units establishing self-maintaining defensive zones around critical systems. Repair network active, Bradley confirmed as his equipment guided the crystal's protective response. The displays showed immediate structural reinforcement wherever quantum disruption attempted to penetrate. Major Stephen Walsh arrived at Harper's tactical station, advanced battle coordination systems already tracking J-Rawls' attack patterns. Crystal network predicting offensive vectors, Walsh reported, his equipment revealing automated defensive adjustments that anticipated each incoming strike. The quantum disruptors fired in synchronized salvos, but the crystal-enhanced shields held firm. More Katarian vessels broke away from J-Rawls' diminishing fleet as the unified defensive grid demonstrated its effectiveness. The crystal matrix continued evolving, incorporating each failed attack into its adaptive capabilities. Through it all, Lena's neural emissions maintained perfect stability, her enhanced connection to the station's systems providing a foundation for both her recovery and the expanding crystal network. The medical bay hummed with focused activity as multiple teams worked to understand and direct the rapidly advancing hybrid technology. Hammond's neural interface equipment tracked steady improvement in Lena's condition, while the crystal matrix developed increasingly sophisticated defensive protocols. Walsh's tactical analysis revealed additional strategic advantages as the network's predictive capabilities grew more precise. Above the station, J-Rawls' quantum assault faltered against the unified shield grid, while Cooper's synchronization technology strengthened the defensive alliance between K-Tau's research fleet and the crystal-enhanced infrastructure. Harper's tactical display flashed with new alert patterns. Admiral J-Rawls' vessels are powering down quantum disruptors. New weapons signatures detected phase-shift torpedoes arming. Dr. Marcus Davidson sprinted through the medical bay doors, phase defense equipment already active in his hands. Phase countermeasure systems online. His fingers danced across specialized controls, establishing protective fields around critical crystal formations. Torres studied fresh sensor data streaming across his engineering station. Neural pattern analysis shows unprecedented crystal integration. Lena's vital signs remained steady as her enhanced nervous system synchronized with the station's defensive grid. Dr. Raymond Walker connected neural amplification equipment near Lena's bed. Direct neural interface established, he reported, as specialized circuits created precise pathways between her quantum-stable neural patterns and the crystal matrix. The displays showed immediate strengthening of vulnerable defensive zones. Engineering to medical crystal growth rate exceeding safety parameters. Patterson's voice carried focused intensity. Dr. Henry Walsh wheeled in specialized containment units, their surfaces gleaming with advanced material science technology. Growth control fields active, Walsh announced, his equipment projecting precise barriers that channeled crystal expansion into reinforced defensive patterns. The formations flowed through predetermined paths, strengthening critical systems while avoiding sensitive infrastructure. At the power core, Reeves' monitoring equipment detected a crucial development. The crystal network is generating localized phase-shift barriers. Dr. Christopher Stone activated experimental stabilization systems, creating overlapping fields that deflected J-Rawls' phase weapons. Phase-stable defense grid established, Stone reported as his equipment synchronized with the crystal matrix. The first phase-shift torpedoes impacted harmlessly against the multi-layered barriers. K-Tau's voice cut through the comm system. Station command, our sensors detect shield projection capabilities. Commander Alan Pierce arrived at the Defense Control Station, connecting advanced field synchronization technology. Multivessel defensive network online, Pierce announced. His displays showed perfect alignment as crystal-enhanced shields extended to protect K-Tau's research fleet. The unified defense grid pulsed with quantum-stabilized energy. Major Daniel Foster worked at Harper's tactical station. Crystal matrix generating quantum-entangled defensive nodes. Dr. Brian Thompson stepped forward, specialized monitoring equipment tracking the autonomous defense system's formation. Quantum defense grid active, Thompson reported as his systems mapped the instantaneous response network. The displays showed automated adjustments neutralizing each new attack vector. Engineering alerts flashed as J-Rawls' vessels began experiencing cascading system failures. Dr. William Roberts analyzed the sensor data at the security center. Crystal-enhanced shields creating weapons feedback loops. K-Tarian offensive systems becoming non-viable. Through the observation windows, more ships broke away from J-Rawls' formation. The crystal network continued its controlled expansion, while Lena's neural integration provided crucial stability. Walsh's containment equipment maintained precise growth parameters as Davidson's phase defenses absorbed incoming attacks. Stone's power management systems channeled the crystal-generated energy into Pierce's unified shield grid. Thompson's quantum monitoring equipment tracked the expanding defensive network, while Walker's neural interface ensured Lena's enhanced connection remained stable and independent. The medical bay sensors mapped new patterns of integration as the hybrid technology evolved beyond conventional military capabilities. Above the station, J-RAL's remaining vessels faced a defensive system their weapons could no longer penetrate. Roberts' analysis equipment confirmed the fundamental shift in tactical advantage, while Foster's defense coordination prevented any gaps in the crystal-enhanced protection. The crystal-enhanced shield grid rippled with residual energy as J-RAL's phase-shift torpedoes overloaded against the quantum-stabilized barriers. Emergency alerts flashed across multiple stations as feedback cascaded through the Catarian weapons systems. Dr. Victor Manning burst into the tactical center, advanced diagnostic equipment already gathering data on the weapon's failures. His specialized sensors mapped the crystal network's defensive resonance patterns. The shield harmonics have permanently altered their weapon's effectiveness, he reported, studying the intricate readouts. Their military technology can't adapt to these quantum variations. In the medical bay, Chief Engineer Patterson's monitoring equipment detected a crucial shift in Lena's neural patterns. Medical team, neural stability has achieved maximum coherence. Dr. Samuel Harrison stepped through the doorway, neural integration sensors automatically connecting to the monitoring grid. Remarkable, Harrison said, analyzing the data streams. Her neural template is forming a true symbiotic link with the crystal matrix. His equipment mapped new connections forming between human nervous system patterns and crystalline structures. Engineer Tor's sensors blared urgent alerts as crystal formations throughout the station began shifting configuration. Crystal nodes developing medical enhancement properties, he called out. Dr. Thomas right-wheeled in prototype medical integration units, their surfaces gleaming with specialized interface technology. Establishing treatment center protocols, Wright announced. His equipment projected precise fields that guided the crystal growth into optimal healing configurations. The first crystal-enhanced recovery zone hummed to life, its quantum-stable environment replicating the conditions that facilitated Lena's ongoing recovery. Through the observation windows, KTAL's research vessels maintained defensive formation as Dr. Andrew Phillips activated experimental field generation systems. Mobile recovery zone projection successful, he reported. Crystal-enhanced healing environments materialized around designated sections of the Catarian ships. At the power core, Reeves' monitoring equipment detected unusual energy signatures. Crystal formations exhibiting communication properties, he called out. Dr. Michael Foster connected advanced interface units to the growing network, establishing new data pathways. Medical transmission protocols online, Foster confirmed. His displays showed healing frequencies and recovery data flowing through the crystal matrix to properly equipped medical stations. The network adapted its communication patterns to maintain optimal signal clarity. Security Chief Harper's tactical display shifted as J-RAL's remaining vessels powered down their weapons. Incoming transmission, they're requesting medical assistance. Major Robert Davidson activated specialized diplomatic channels, creating secure approach vectors for the Catarian ships. Treatment zones ready to receive patients, Davidson announced. His equipment guided the first medical transport through the crystal-enhanced defensive grid. The vessel's quantum signature registered as non-hostile in Harper's security protocols. Dr. James Turner worked at the Crystal Network Control Station, prototype field modification equipment tracking physiological variations between species. Healing field customization complete, he reported. The displays showed the crystal matrix automatically adjusting its medical properties to accommodate both human and K-Terrian biology. The first wave of injured K-Terrian crew members arrived at the crystal-enhanced medical facilities. Advanced treatment pods activated, their environments precisely calibrated by Turner's modifications. Wright's integration equipment maintained stable healing conditions, while Harrison's neural monitoring systems tracked recovery patterns. Through the observation windows, Admiral Jarrell's flagship maintained position at the system's edge. Davidson's diplomatic channels remained open as more K-Terrian vessels approached the station's expanding medical network. Foster's communication systems transmitted treatment protocols, while Phillips' mobile recovery zones extended the crystal matrix's healing influence. In the medical bay, Lena's neural emissions provided crucial calibration data as Wright's equipment optimized the crystal-enhanced recovery process. Harrison studied the evolving symbiotic patterns, while Turner's modifications ensured compatible treatment environments for all patients. The Crystal Network continued developing its medical capabilities, as Manning's diagnostic equipment tracked the transformation of military technology into healing applications. The Crystal Network's medical expansion paused momentarily as Dr. Lawrence Peterson strode into the medical bay, wheeling specialized integration equipment through the doors. His trained eye noted the intricate healing patterns already taking shape within the crystalline structures. Quantum-stable neural protocols ready for implementation, Peterson announced, connecting his advanced systems to the existing network. The displays lit up with standardized treatment parameters derived from Lena's ongoing recovery data. Chief Engineer Patterson's sensors detected new activity throughout the medical section. Crystal formations developing rehabilitative structures, he reported as specialized healing zones took shape. Dr. Mark Anderson arrived moments later, prototype therapy units humming to life, as he established interface connections with the growing crystal network. Physical therapy zones activating, Anderson called out. His equipment projected precise fields that guided crystal growth into optimal configurations for both human and K-Terrian physiotherapy. The first patients entered the specialized recovery areas, their movements supported by crystal-generated assistance fields. At the neural monitoring station, Dr. Timothy Brooks studied incoming data streams with focused intensity. These crystal formations are generating targeted regeneration fields, he observed. His fingers danced across specialized controls, implementing treatment protocols based on Lena's neural recovery patterns. The medical bay expanded as crystal-enhanced therapy zones spread through designated sections. Security Chief Harper's tactical display tracked the first group of K-Terrian patients showing accelerated neural recovery. Dr. William Carter arrived from Earth, his advanced diagnostic equipment confirming unprecedented healing rates across species barriers. Neural regeneration patterns matching human baseline, Carter reported, studying detailed medical scans. The displays showed crystal-enhanced treatments successfully adapting to K-Terrian nervous system configurations. Power Specialist Reeves monitoring equipment detected increasing energy demands from the medical facilities. Dr. Charles Wilson connected specialized crystal-compatible power systems, establishing dedicated channels for the expanding treatment network. Power distribution grid stabilized, Wilson announced as his equipment synchronized with the crystal matrix. The healing zones maintained optimal energy levels while specialized monitoring systems tracked power consumption patterns. KTAL's research vessels achieved a breakthrough as Dr. Richard Hayes activated prototype crystal seeding equipment. Mobile treatment facility generation confirmed, Hayes reported. His displays showed successful replication of medical crystal structures across multiple ships. The engineering section buzzed with activity as Engineer Tor's sensors mapped new autonomous functions developing within the crystal network. Dr. Benjamin Foster's specialized analysis equipment confirmed the formation's ability to identify and treat neural injuries without direct intervention. Automated diagnostic protocols operational, Foster announced. The displays showed crystal-enhanced medical systems adapting treatment parameters based on individual patient requirements. Through the observation windows, more Katarian vessels approached the station's expanding medical facilities. Admiral Jayral's flagship maintained its position while diplomatic channels remained open. In the crystal-enhanced recovery zones, both human and Katarian patients moved through carefully calibrated therapy routines. The medical bay continued evolving as Peterson's standardized protocols merged with Anderson's physical therapy systems. Brooks' neural regeneration fields pulsed with quantum-stable energy, while Carter's diagnostic equipment tracked recovery rates across species. Wilson's power management systems maintained precise distribution, as Hayes' mobile treatment facilities expanded through K-Tau's research fleet. Foster's automated systems adapted to each new patient, while the Crystal Network developed increasingly sophisticated healing capabilities. The displays showed successful treatment patterns repeating across multiple recovery zones as the hybrid technology bridged physiological barriers between species. Neural stability thresholds exceeding projections, Brooks reported as his equipment mapped accelerated recovery patterns. The crystal matrix continued incorporating successful treatment data, optimizing its medical protocols with each new patient. Anderson's physical therapy zones hummed with focused activity, while Peterson's standardized systems maintained precise healing parameters. Through it all, Lena's neural emissions provided crucial calibration data as the Crystal Network expanded its revolutionary medical applications. The Crystal Network's medical advancement reached a critical juncture as Admiral Jayral's flagship transmitted a formal docking request. Security Chief Harper's display highlighted the incoming signal while Ambassador Michael Hawthorne stepped through the airlock, diplomatic credentials automatically registering in the station's systems. Establishing secure negotiation protocols, Hawthorne announced, activating specialized interface equipment. The crystal formations near the diplomatic section responded, creating quantum-stabilized meeting environments designed to facilitate peaceful discussions. In the expanding medical bay, Dr. Gregory Matthews connected prototype rehabilitation systems to the crystal matrix. Neural enhancement field generation confirmed, he reported as specialized training zones materialized. The displays tracked patient recovery times decreasing by 73% as the Crystal Network optimized its therapeutic properties. Chief Engineer Patterson's monitoring equipment detected new crystal growth patterns. Standardized medical template formation in progress, he called out. Dr. Jonathan Blake wheeled in experimental replication units, their surfaces gleaming with precision crystal growing technology. Template stabilization achieved, Blake confirmed. His equipment projected precise fields that guided crystal development into transportable configurations. The first standardized medical module took shape, its structure identical to the treatment centers already proving successful. Power specialist Reeves worked at the crystal packaging station, specialized containment fields maintaining precise quantum states. Dr. Philip Anderson's prototype stabilization units hummed to life, preserving the crystal formation's medical properties during transport preparation. Package integrity confirmed, Anderson reported. The displays showed complete treatment centers maintaining full functionality within the specialized transport containers. His equipment automatically adjusted field parameters to prevent degradation during shipping. Research Director K-Tal's laboratory buzzed with activity as Dr. Stephen Wells activated new crystal growing chambers. Medical crystal production protocols online, Wells announced. The specialized formations developed rapidly, maintaining consistent healing properties validated by the station's treatment data. Through the observation windows, K-Tarian vessels maneuvered into designated medical transport positions. Dr. Christopher Hayes coordinated patient movements from the Transfer Control Center, crystal field stabilizers ensuring safe passage between ships. Transfer corridor stability at optimal levels, Hayes confirmed. His specialized equipment maintained precise healing environments as injured crew members moved between vessels. The crystal network automatically adjusted its properties to protect patients during transit. Dr. Robert Marshall's integration team achieved a breakthrough aboard the K-Tarian medical ship Velther. Permanent treatment center installation successful, he reported through the comm system. The vessel's power grid synchronized with the crystal-based medical systems, establishing stable operational parameters. In the diplomatic section, Ambassador Hawthorne's specialized meeting facilities took shape as crystal formations generated quantum-stable negotiation zones. Security Chief Harper's systems confirmed Admiral Jayral's approach, while standardized diplomatic protocols initialized. The medical bay continued expanding as Matthew's rehabilitation equipment created increasingly sophisticated training environments. Blake's replication units produced standardized treatment modules, while Anderson's packaging systems prepared them for transport. Wells' production facilities generated specialized medical crystals as Hayes coordinated patient movements through the growing network. Marshall's installation teams established permanent treatment centers across multiple K-Tarian vessels while maintaining precise integration standards. Through it all, Lena's neural patterns provided ongoing calibration data, optimizing the crystal network's effectiveness for both human and K-Tarian physiology. The displays showed successful treatment outcomes multiplying as more patients moved through the revolutionary medical facilities. Ambassador Hawthorne's diplomatic channels remained active as preparations for formal negotiations continued. The crystal-enhanced meeting facilities hummed with quantum-stable energy while Security Chief Harper maintained precise protective protocols around the expanding medical network. The crystal formations shifted, creating a secure pathway as Admiral Jayral stepped through the airlock. Dr. Thomas Blackwood from Earth's Interstellar Medical Commission followed close behind, his arms laden with data tablets containing treatment documentation. "The results speak for themselves," Blackwood said, activating a holographic display that filled the air with successful treatment statistics. Over 3,000 cases documented across both species, with consistent positive outcomes. Admiral Jayral studied the projected data with keen interest. His expert medical staff moved through the facility, observing crystal-enhanced treatments in progress. These healing rates exceed our most optimistic projections. In the engineering section, Dr. Harold Mitchell's new crystal manufacturing center hummed to life. Specialized growth chambers lined the walls, each maintaining precise quantum conditions as medical-grade crystals formed within. "Production sequence initialized," Mitchell announced, monitoring the first large-scale crystal batch. The displays showed perfect formation patterns matching the medical templates derived from the successful treatments. Chief Engineer Patterson worked alongside Dr. Peter Reynolds at the automated production facility. Reynolds' prototype equipment whirred smoothly as it generated crystal structures at unprecedented speed. "Growth chamber efficiency at 94%, Reynolds reported, adjusting power flow through the precision manufacturing arrays. "We can supply full treatment centers to both fleets within standard weeks rather than months." Dr. James Morrison moved through the integration bay, where modular crystal units took shape under specialized assembly fields. These standardized modules will connect directly to existing medical systems, he explained, demonstrating the universal interface designs. The engineering team loaded the first completed module onto a K-Tarian medical transport. The crystal formations within maintained stable healing configurations throughout the transfer process. Aboard Admiral J-Rawls' flagship, Dr. William Foster's installation team created the first permanent crystal medical center. Power synchronization complete, Foster called out as the ship's systems merged with the crystal matrix. K-Tarian medical displays lit up with familiar diagnostic patterns, now enhanced by crystal-generated healing fields. Dr. Charles Anderson worked in the neural treatment zone, documenting successful therapy sessions. The crystal network adapts perfectly to both nervous system configurations, he observed, recording detailed response patterns from human and K-Tarian patients. Security Chief Harper's tactical display showed a steady stream of K-Tarian medical vessels approaching the station. Dr. Robert Turner guided incoming medical staff through the training facilities, while Dr. Mark Davidson instructed technical crews on crystal system maintenance. The maintenance protocols translate effectively across both engineering traditions, Davidson noted as K-Tarian technicians practiced crystal array alignment procedures. In the Rehabilitation Center, Dr. Stephen Wallace monitored Lena's latest therapy session. The crystal formations responded instantly to her neural patterns, generating precisely calibrated healing fields. Patient adaptation time reduced by 35%, Wallace reported, studying the improved recovery metrics. The displays showed accelerated healing rates while safety parameters remained well within established limits. The manufacturing center expanded as Mitchell's team activated additional production lines. Reynolds' automated systems maintained optimal growth conditions, while Morrison's integration units prepared standardized medical modules for transport. Foster's installation teams moved between vessels, establishing permanent crystal medical centers throughout the combined fleet. Anderson's treatment protocols spread through the growing network as Turner and Davidson trained more medical staff in crystal technology operation. Through it all, Wallace's enhanced rehabilitation programs demonstrated the system's evolution beyond its original parameters. The crystal network continued incorporating successful treatment data, advancing its capabilities with each new patient. The station's medical bay buzzed with focused activity as both civilizations' medical experts worked side by side, sharing knowledge and refining techniques. Crystal manufacturing continued at precision-controlled rates, while standardized treatment centers made their way to waiting vessels. Harper's security systems tracked the steady flow of medical traffic as the station transformed into the heart of an unprecedented technological exchange. The displays showed treatment success rates climbing steadily as more patients moved through the crystal-enhanced facilities. Data streams from hundreds of successful treatments flooded the main medical bay displays as Lena gripped the support rails. Her fingers released their hold, one by one, while Dr. Coleman monitored neural feedback readings from a nearby console. Neural crystal integration at maximum stability, Coleman announced, watching vital signs remain steady. Lena took her first unassisted step forward, then another. Admiral J-Rawl and Research Director K-Tal stood silently observing as she traversed the length of the medical bay. Neuromuscular coordination exceeding baseline parameters by 27%, Coleman noted, scanning the incoming data. Lena's movements grew more fluid with each step, the crystal network pulsing in harmony with her neural patterns. In the manufacturing sector, Dr. Marcus Bennett activated the final crystal growth chamber. "Production hub online," he called out as 20 automated units hummed to life. Specialized containment fields maintained quantum stability, while medical-grade crystals formed within the precision-controlled environments. Growth sequence nominal across all chambers, Bennett reported. The transport vessel Hope's Dawn waited at the loading dock. Its specialized cargo holds ready to receive the first shipment bound for Earth's Central Medical Facility. The station's conference center gleamed with crystal-enhanced surfaces as Admiral J. Rawl and Research Director K. Tao took their positions at the agreement table. Dr. Coleman stood nearby while Lena observed from a seat of honor. Dr. Sarah Reynolds entered with a data tablet containing the standardized treatment protocols. 500 successful cases documented, Reynolds stated, displaying the compiled data. Both human and Catarian recovery rates exceed previous medical standards by significant margins. Chief Engineer Patterson's team worked through final systems checks as Dr. John Marshall initiated crystal integration protocols. Medical facility activation proceeding deck by deck, Marshall announced. Crystal formations spread through designated zones, transforming standard medical bays into advanced treatment centers. The arrival of Administrative Director Parker brought formal recognition from both governments. By joint declaration of Earth's Medical Authority and the Catarian High Council, this station is hereby designated the Interstellar Medical Research Center, Parker proclaimed as engineer tours activated newly installed teaching equipment. Medical officials from both species gathered in the main treatment zone as Lena demonstrated her restored abilities. Dr. Richard Cooper's instruments tracked her movements, recording data for the treatment database. Implementing Lena protocol designation, Cooper announced, transferring the standardized procedures into the Central Medical Archives. The Crystal Network processed the information, incorporating successful treatment parameters into its operational matrix. The medical transport New Dawn aligned with the station's docking port. Its crystal-enhanced systems synchronized automatically with the station's network as Lena prepared for departure. Dr. Coleman's medical team transferred her records while Admiral J. Rawl's flagship moved into escort position. Lena walked steadily through the airlock, each step a testament to the revolutionary treatment's success. The station's crystal lattice pulsed with steady blue illumination, its medical systems now fully operational and ready to serve patients from both civilizations. The New Dawn's engines powered up as Admiral J. Rawl's vessel took up formation alongside. Far below in the manufacturing sector, Bennett's production facilities continued generating medical crystals, while Marshall's integration teams expanded the treatment network throughout the station's decks.